Morning everybody. As promised, I said a few videos back I would do a bit of a test on four of my main paints that I've been testing over the last 12 months recently. Now, you've seen the Hanford and Green paints that we've been testing. Use Doris the Door. Now, Doris the Door, my last time I painted Doris the Door, the main door, I use TouchGard. So I'm going to make a note of that. So the main door is TouchGard. The main frame of the door's TouchGard. Now, in between in my own time, because nobody pays me for my own time, I've done some panels of the different paints. So bear in mind, we're going over a door that was white, and if you've watched that video, is it there? Is it there? I can't remember now. So if you watch that video there, I did the TouchGard, and I just said it lacked a little bit of opacity because where I'd got a coloured door underneath, it wasn't brilliant. It needed another coat. So the whole door's got TouchGard on it, so we've used that as the base. Now this one here, we've got Aqua. That's the Johnstone's Aqua. Got the Johnstone's Aqua. We've got Dulux Heritage. Got Dulux Heritage, and then we've got Scuffgard, which is the H&G. And then the one we're all loving at the minute, we've got ScuffX. Right, so just make a note of that so I know where we are. Now, before we go on to what they all feel like and what the application was like, because I did them all at the same time, I had 4 lots of brushes out and we've painted each individual panel to get an idea, and we're going to compare it against, and I'll take these off, the TouchGard that's in the middle. So we've got in effect 5 paints on the go. Let's take that off there, let's take that off there, we can see which one does. I got that there. Just seeing if any paint's pulled off on the tape. It hasn't, it's just the flakiness of the paint that's on the tape. Right, so we've got 4 paints. What did I think to them all? Let's just have a look at that. Right, application wise, you know what I think about the Aqua. You feel like you're putting a paint on, you've got to work it, you've got to make sure you've got no creeps, and doing that small section of panel there, I was making sure that I didn't get any creeps on the edges. Now, I'll say it's not my most favouriteest paint because it is a paint you have to work and you've got to be careful of. Finish wise, I'm feeling it. Yeah, it feels nice to the touch. Now this is one of these paints that supposedly is good for newel posts and handrails, and you shouldn't get any softening up like you do with acrylic water-based paints when you've got those high traffic areas. That said, the TouchGard is its competitor on that sort of finish. So if you don't want to be doing Aqua, you could be using the H&G, because that is an oil resistant high traffic area paint to use. Between the two, I'm looking across the line, finish wise as a sheen, because these are all a satiny finish. These aren't so much eggshells which are flatter, these are satiny finishes. What wins on that one? I would say the Aqua gets a tick on that compared to the TouchGard. It's a bit better finish. Now, opacity, I think with that opacity being that little bit thicker, it probably also wins on that as well out of those two. So yeah, I don't care for that because I don't like how it applies, as in it creeps on you after about 20 minutes. But saying that, lots of people do like it, and they try, I won't say try, lots of people do like it, but I'm going to say it, and I'm going to, is it because they don't want to buy ScuffX? Maybe. ScuffX. We'll come on to that in a minute. So, right, I'm going to say a litre of that Do you know how much a litre of that is? A litre of that, and I've got written it down. If you go to Brewers, that for a litre, 1 litre is 31 quid. 31 pounds. Right. Your TouchGard for a litre was, is it 32? Not a lot in it, is there? Not a lot, that's for a litre again. Right? 1 litre. We move down to the other paints that we've tried. The Scuffgard from H&G. Now I like that, and that's probably one of the last videos you've seen me using the H&G paints. I like that. That comes in at, yeah, I'm just checking. That comes in the same price as the TouchGard. So for 1 litre, that's 32 quid as well. Right. So price wise, we're all of much of a muchness. The feel of that, lack of brush marks in it, I do like that. So I'm going to say, and I probably said it on the last video, please give it a go. That is very nice. How does it compare feel wise to the AquaGuard? The AquaGuard does feel it's got a little bit more sheen, smoothness to it. Yeah. But the advantage of that is, comparing that to an AquaGuard, the application, it went on beautiful. It was a really nice paint to apply. It felt like you were putting a paint on and you'd got control over it. You could just put enough paint on, lay it off, and I wasn't concerned I was going to get any little bits of drips around those edges or on those corners of the mouldings or anything like that. So that for me gets, that'll get a tick for that. And as I say, it's not got particularly a brush marky finish to it. It flows out nicely. And to be fair, the sheen level's not bad on that either. So right, let's move away and go over to the Dulux Heritage. Now, the Dulux Heritage, I will say, is probably one of the only, I'm going to say it quite quickly, the Dulux Heritage range is one of the best paints that Dulux do. Am I right or am I wrong? Now, I'll say the disadvantage of this is Dulux Heritage is in 750ml tins. They're in 750ml tins. Now a 750ml tin of that, it's classed as a mixed paint, even though it's white. Now this was mixed to, and I've got it here somewhere, I got it mixed to white because I couldn't understand why it needed to be mixed to white, and it is the British Standard 00E55, but it's a 750ml tin, and this comes in, and again this is Brewers because I've tried to and keep all the prices from one reseller. You're looking at 30 quid for that, so 29, I think it's 29.99. 29.99, and it's a mix, so it's a mix to a white. It doesn't seem, you can probably not see it as well as I can, it doesn't seem as white as what all the other paints are, which we're looking at there. It's not as white as the AquaGuard, it's not as white as the Scuffgard, and it's not as white as the TouchGard. Now, is that because they're brilliant whites? Quite possibly. But that said, if you're a decorator that's still stuck in your ways using, I'll put this down, still stuck in your ways, and I don't want to say it as a negative or being horrible, if you're a decorator that is still an oil-based person and you do want to move on to water-based, I've said for a while, start with your Dulux, because if you are an oil-based dinosaur decorator, more than likely you're using the main brand paints. Crown, Dulux, Johnno's, the three main brands. You might be using little offshoots of that, Macpherson's or something like that. Manda's, can you remember that? Brolac, yeah. Never mind. But that is the nearest to oil-based paint on application that I've come across. It feels that little bit thicker on application. It flows out nicely. It's got a nice feel to it for brushing it. But when you're brushing it, please move away from using pure bristle brushes. You know what brushes I've been using, and when a test paint's out, I'm using the Moore Heritage, and a lot of people have messaged me, where do you get that from? Please, Scott at Paint Monster has been very helpful to me. He supplies me with the 2 two or three brushes to see what I thought. And I do like that Moore Heritage brush, and particularly for testing paints out, for keeping continuity. Keeping with one brush for applying paints is good for me to see how they feel when you're actually applying it. So if you are looking at moving on to a water-based paint and you've been used to oil, I'm going to say try the Dulux Heritage, because the application of that is very nice. The white is a mix, so it's not going to be a brilliant white because it's that OE55, which is a British standard colour, but the actual sheen level is a very nice sheen to it without being a flatter eggshell finish. That has got a little bit of silkiness to it, and that's probably where you get your velvet, Dulux velvet paints from. It is very nice, it feels very nice to the touch. And these paints that I'm trying are all paints that you can go sand down your previously painted surface and give them 2 coats of this. If you were any of them, all of these, you can go with 2 coats. The Dulux is a 2-coat system. If you were going over a colour that was wanting a bit of blanking out, you can use the undercoat. And if you're if you were going off a new surface, a new fresh wood, you would put the appropriate primer stroke undercoat on and build up from that. But if you have got a door, like I've got a door painted, you can actually give it a sand down, give it a dust off, get your tack rag out if you want, and you can give it 2 coats. Now the body of that, the opacity and body is very good. When I've used this on jobs, I always say we could use this all the time. It's one of those sorts of paints. It isn't a paint that you'll go not happy with it. It's not one that I notice that creeps, which the Aqua has got a tendency to do. But all in all, that 750ml for £29.99. They're all a much of a muchness on price, aren't they? I'm just checking. Yeah, the opacity was pretty good on that as well. It is a paint that feels that little bit thicker to apply. Right, moving on. Right, let's talk about Scuffgard. We like that. That's got a nice feel to it. That pitches itself against ScuffX. Now ScuffX, we know what ScuffX is. You get it's a US gallon, which is just under 4 litres. Is it 3.78? Right, so we're going to go with 3.78 litres. 3.78 litres is £108. This is Brewers again, right? You'll probably get it cheaper than that if there's an offer on. So I'm going to stick with the standard £108. £108. Right, break that down to a litre. You are looking roughly about 28-ish pounds. I'm going to think it's about £28.50. £28.50. £28.50 for a litre. £28.50 a litre that works out at. Or round it down, £28. £28. Call it £28.50. What's 50p between friends? So people who say, oh, it's really expensive, there's next to nothing in it. I can't understand, there's next to nothing in it. This applies beautifully. And this isn't an endorsement or anything for Benjamin Moore ScuffX, because I'm talking about all of these paints. But my personal view is that applies lovely. It's got a lovely, this has got a proper silky smooth finish to it. It doesn't creep on you like the Aqua. It flows out nice, and when I mean flows out, whereas the other ones we still see a little bit of a brush mark with the flow out, this you're hard pushed to see it. I'm feeling it now. You don't feel any ridges in it. You don't feel anything that you go, oh, it's dried off on me too quick. And don't forget, none of these paints have got any conditioners on it. You know, adding conditioner. And I don't know whether you might have seen the video I've done on conditioners or seen the shorts. That is something we'll come on to on that video if you've not seen it, or, you know, but these are straight out the tin. Yeah, we're in a warmer room when I've got the heater on, and you've probably seen me slow cooker that I use sometimes when we paint it's really cold. I warm it up just to make it go on. These have just been room temperature, and these have applied really nicely. The ScuffX, you're hard beaten to get a nicer finish than that. And when people are on about the price, well, you tell me. I know you've got to buy 4 litres in one go. just under 4 litres. But price wise, it works out about the same. So don't let that price put you off if you want to try it, because it is a lovely paint. I would say though, as a negative, because I'm always some biased opinion. Nobody sponsors me, nobody's paying me to say anything. I do get the odd tin of paint sent to me for trying, but I do give my honest opinion. I would say what I do notice with this, and some of the other paints you could probably get the same. You know, if you've got skirting boards and your cleaner, if you've got a cleaner, there's a joke in there about I got married to have a cleaner, but she'll kill me on that one. Not kill me, I don't want to be sued or anything, you know. But if you've got a cleaner and they're going around with a vacuum cleaner and they're scuffed in, and that's the word, scuffed in your skirting boards, and you can just see that bit of a tide mark going around with the rubber of the vacuum cleaner just catching it, or the plastic tools. Sometimes you can't get it off very easy. You sand it and you can just see a bit of a trace still there. Sometimes that first coat of ScuffX struggles covering on that, and the second coat, if you know where it is, you'll be looking for it, but it does eventually go with just touching it in. But it could do with a little bit more body to it. Now, when it comes to ScuffX, they've got Chantilly, is it Chantilly lace? I think I've got both of them on the go. Chantilly lace, and the other one is super white. Now, I'm hard pushed to see a difference between Chantilly lace and super white. Now, what have I got? This paint there, because it's this tin that I used, is super white. So I'm going to say, how does that super white stand up against the brilliant white of... Get rid of that. How does it stand up against... I'm looking at the TouchGard, which is a brilliant white. Let's just get that. Look at that. That's super white. There's not a lot in it. You probably would say that the TouchGard has got a little bit more pop, being a brilliant white, than the ScuffX. But then I wonder whether the ScuffX is a mixed white when you've got super whites and Chantilly lace whites. Is that because putting a bit of pigment to it for making a colour to keep it white gives you a bit more body to it? Maybe. Maybe. I know back in the day when we used to be using a lot more Tikkurila Helmi 30, we always used to get it mixed up to, was it mixed up something like all white or something. They used to put something in it to add a bit more to it, to give it a bit better opacity, because whites are a nightmare, and that is why I test whites out, because I know as a decorator, and you're probably getting the same sort of thing, particularly with water-based paints, the opacity, the coverage of whites can be a bit of a nightmare, whether it be emulsions, whether it be woodwork paints, trim paints. It can always be a bit of a hit and miss whether it gives you that body and opacity. Aqua Heritage, you got ScuffX and Scuffgard, and the TouchGard are all very similar to each other. They've all got that little bit more body to it than you'd probably get with a cheaper, and I'm looking down there, can you remember when I did the video on the cheap quick dry satin paint from Screwfix? It serves a purpose for some people. If you just want a cheap paint that's about 20 odd quid for 2.5 litres and you just want to tidy something up, it serves a purpose. But when you start going to a little bit better quality paints, which these are, you pay a bit more for it. You pay a bit more, but you also get a lot more for it. You've got AquaGuard, you've got the TouchGard, you've got the Scuffgard and ScuffX, all hard wearing paints to try and be resistant to bangs and knocks and things like that. But all of them, there is no one winner in this. This is personal choice on what you like to apply, what you like as a finish, how it's actually standing up for you. But I would say give all of these 5 a go. And there's other paints out there, and you've seen on the playlist when I've done testing of paints, you might prefer the ones that I'm not liking. But these, as 5 paints, I'd have no problem using them again. That's the one that I have the bit of a gripe about, because it's got little bits of creeps and runs if you're not keeping an eye on it. But as I've said before, I think there's a lot of people out there that, and I don't want to say this really negative, probably haven't got the skills with brushwork to be able to apply paints, and they go in with a roller and a mini roller and stuff like these microfiber rollers. I mean, there's various ones. I've got these. I've got the Arrowworthy that's really nice, and don't forget the Two Fussy Blokes. These can save you bacon. These can save you bacon when it starts coming to rolling outdoors, if you particularly don't know the sequence on how you paint a panel door. And I've done a video on that one, so please Google search that on Google or YouTube. But that said, thanks for listening. To sum it up, please give all of these paints a go and tell me what you think, what you like. But these newer ones that I've been trying recently, I'm quite impressed with. And as I said on a previous video, I would probably say the Scuffgard is the one that you want to be trying as an alternative to ScuffX. But that's only really because you can buy it in a litre and you don't have to buy that 3.78 litres on that US gallon in one go. So 32 quid or 108 quid in one go. What would you probably go for if you're looking at keeping your costs down for spending on a job? Probably that one. But £28.50 a litre. Yeah, so thanks for listening to me on that one. If you are liking the content, like and subscribe, and please give us some comments. It's much appreciated. Yeah, we spoke about paints for 20 minutes. Hope I haven't bored you to death too much, but there is paints out there that might suit you better than the one using at the moment. And don't be frightened to try stuff at your own house or even on a job. If you go off the back of what I'm saying, none of these paints will give you any problems. It's just getting used to it, and that's what we need to do. So going forward, I might try some spraying of these paints with the sprayer that we've got. But all in all, these are very easy to work and brush if you know how to use a brush.